My best vacation in 2001. I was 41 years old. I decided to take a vacation in Tucson, Arizona, and wanted to go to the Grand Canyon. My mom had passed away and deeded me some land, so I wanted to see the land. And here's a picture of the land. All desert. 5 acres and 2 acres and another 2 acres. So 9 acres. 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 acres, right? 8 acres. And Tucson, it all looks like that. It surrounds the Chickamauga Mountains. And here is the post office. And I spent a couple days at the Sunglow Horse Ranch. And here's the horses. It was a dude ranch, and I spent a week there. I rode horses. I rented a car. Here's me leaving for the airport. And yeah, it was kind of like a weird kind of thing because I went by myself, right? And never did a vacation by myself. So I decided to book a trip to the Grand Canyon and take the horse mule down, ride down in the canyon. So here's a picture of the Sunsight Golf Course. That's the where my property is located. And yeah, my mom bought it in 1972, and it was vacant land, and corporation called Place. She purchased it, and development was only done maybe 15, 20 homes built, and then the company went bankrupt and nothing was ever built. So yeah, it was a glorious trip. I mean, I had fun. There's a picture of the mountains. Here's my horse at Sunglow Horse Ranch. I rode. And yeah, so I decided that I was going to, here's another, I sat out, and at that time there was a lot of hummingbirds, and there were astronomers out at Sunglow Horse Ranch photographing the stars that year. So I booked a trip to the Grand Canyon, and I went down on horseback, and it took, I guess it took 4 or 5 hours to get down. It was 117 degrees. We had to wear a full cover up on our arms and legs. The Cowboy, there's the Cowboys that took us down. It was a group of us. We had about an hour orientation before we descended down into the canyon. And at the bottom was Phantom Ranch. And Phantom Ranch, we about 6 hours later was dinner. We spent the night, and then we made the descension back up the canyon. Yeah, it was pretty scary. The first step into the canyon, which was a descension, and it was pretty scary because it was 5,000 feet or 6,000 feet. And here's a picture of it looking down into the canyon. There's no barriers. And it was gravel path, right? So there you can see there's the edge of the Grand Canyon. Very scary. And when my horse name was Pete, and when he stepped down to the canyon, my stomach, it fell to the bottom. My stomach fell down, and I felt dizzy, and I said, holy smokes, I better not pass out. Um, but I had to lean back, I remember, because the horse went forward. And yeah, it was scary. It was about 117 degrees. We stopped 3 times. We stopped at Angel Gardens, and then we got off our horse. We had to take our saddles off, and 3 times we had to stop and get take our saddles off the horse down into the canyon and let the horses breathe. And we had to stand like this, and they washed us off. I stunk so bad. I stunk like horse sweat and horse stench. And there were about 15 of us, I guess, in the Cowboy. The cowboy that took us down, I think his name was, I forget his name, but he was a hottie. He was a hottie right there. You could see him. At the time, I think I weighed about 145 pounds, 150, somewhere around there. I wasn't that heavy. But I had to wear a lot of clothes, as you could see. It had to be, I wore a cowboy hat and had to wear boots. I had to wear long sleeves. And the cowboy, the taller one, he was the cowboy guide. And I learned a lot on that trip. Learned a lot. So actually what had happened was stayed down at the bottom of the canyon overnight, and there was not a sound down at Phantom Ranch. You couldn't hear it. All you could hear was yourself breathe. It was like you were, and I looked up and you could see all the formations of all the canyon, like gold and silver, and it was just glistening in every different time of the day or time of the night. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. I think it took about 6 hours to get down, and we stopped for lunch. We had to pack a lunch, and see, I had rented a car, and I had put a cooler in the back of the car because I rented the car from the airport. And I had never done anything like this. Never traveled alone. But I was determined to do this by myself. So I rented the car, and then I went to the ranch, stayed at the Dude Ranch for a couple days, and it was called Sunglow Horse Ranch, and had a beautiful southwestern room, and the food was very, very reasonable. And I think at that time it was like $120 a night, and then I had to pay extra for my horse. And then after that, then I visited my land in between that, and then I went across the desert and I went to the Grand Canyon, and I stayed at the El Tovar Hotel the night before, and I had a white glove dinner. And my waiter, I had a personal waiter, and he had gloves on, and he served me everything. He served me my dinner. He was my own personal waiter, which I paid for. And yeah, it was great. It was great. And the room, I'll never forget the room. The room had 2 roses with chocolates on the pillow. It is called the El Tovar. I used to have a picture of it, but I can't find it. Right at the south rim on the Grand Canyon. So the next day I booked the trip to go down into the canyon, and we had a 45-minute session for the overall descension experience to go down in the Grand Canyon by Mule. And they did have a weight limit. You couldn't be over, I think, 200 pounds. And they had a height requirement. So at the time, I wasn't overweight or obese. I think I weighed maybe about 150 pounds, not more than that. I was 41 years old because it was 2001, and here's my certificate after I completed the ride, the mule ride down, and it says Annette, and it says the member of today's party on the Bright Angel S Kebab Trail to Phantom Ranch, Arizona. And then my horse mule was Pete, June 30th to July 1st. And Jack was his name. Jack was his name. And he was a hottie. Mm-hmm. There he is. So luckily, after we got off the mule ride, he invited me out to dinner. And he invited me out to dinner. And so I said, oh no. So luckily I had the cooler in the back of the rental car. So I put towels on the windows and I took a spit bath in the back of the car with the cooler water because I was stinking like a horse mule, right? So then after the trip down to Phantom Ranch, which we had a steak dinner that night and stayed in a cabin. And it was kind of like rustic cabin. I think the whole trip for the horse mule down in the canyon to the Phantom Ranch was $300. So yeah, I mean, I cried for the first 10 minutes when we were going down the canyon. I was really scared, but I couldn't let the horse know that I was scared because I was afraid, or the horse mule, but they're really trained. But I was just a nervous wreck. I was a nervous wreck. And then I sort of settled in. I said, okay, I'll be all right. I'm not going to fall 5,000 feet. Yeah. So after all the terrain and getting off the horse, we had to get off the horse 3 times, and they washed us down with water. And it was hot, 117 degrees. Phew, I must have sweat. The horse, when I took my saddle off the horse was wringing wet. I mean, wringing wet. My pants on the inside were all stinking like horse, right? And I was just soaked down to my underwear, right? Uh, and I had dried, and then I got wet again, dried and wet. So yeah, it was not a pretty smell. So we stayed overnight. We had a nice dinner, and we met. There was a couple. I guess there was 12 of us in our group that went descension down to the canyon. So then we had to make the descension back up the Grand Canyon, and that was pretty rough too. That was pretty rough. It was no laughing matter. No laughing matter. Um, yeah, and but it was a great experience. Hmm. So it took us longer to get up the canyon than it going down. This was 2001, and I was 41 years old. So then after we got back up at the canyon, Jack, the guide, um, he said, "Do you want to go out to dinner?" I said, "Yeah, I'll go out to dinner with you." So I was not a naughty girl. Mm-mm, no. And to think back, I was taking some chances. I was taking some chances. So I said, "Yeah, I'll go out to dinner." So he said, "Well, I got to go and take a shower." He said, "Do you want to go back to my apartment?" I thought, "Oh, Lord." Now, so I said, "Okay." So I'm in his apartment, and he's taking a shower, right? I got my cowgirl hat on, And I always had a knife. I had a 6-inch knife. I don't know where it's at, but it's about 6 inches. I carried it on my belt because in case I met anybody like a bear or something out in the woods when I was hiking. Had some bear spray too. So he's in taking a shower. He comes out of his shower with his cowboy hat over his you know what he? It's like, oh my God. I can't believe I'm doing this. Can't believe I'm doing this. I took some chances, girl. So we went out to this bar. We went out to this bar and had some Mexican beers and shots of tequila. Oh my God. You know that song, Tequila Makes Your Pants Fall Off? I had to hold him on tight because he was a hottie. I thought so. I thought so. But I was a good girl. So, here's another picture of the Grand Canyon. Yeah. So, there he is right there again. What a hottie. What a hottie. He had on those chaps, those cowboy chaps. Every time I looked at him with those cowboy chaps, my heart melted. Woo, melted. I love a cowboy. Woo, I love a cowboy. So, yeah, that was my hurrah. And here's me down at the bottom of the canyon. I was all swollen in the heat. But yeah, so we had a good time. We had Corona beers, I think, Coronas, and tequila with what do you call that? Lime. Because I wasn't married then. I had met Joe in 2004. Yeah, 2004. Woo wee! I had a whirlwind time. I could close my eyes and still think about it. Lucky I didn't meet up with no killer or no rapist or anything, but he was a perfect cowboy. He was a gentleman. And he didn't try to do anything that I wouldn't do. But see, I can't drink, so I had about a couple beers and one shot. I was like loaded, and then I had to drive across the desert at 2:00 in the morning. My flight went to go out at 7:00 the next morning, so we were at the bar till about maybe 2:00 in the morning, doing the two-step and drinking shots of tequila and Corona beers, and I was fired up. And now that I think about it, I drove across the desert by myself at 3:00 in the morning to get to the Tucson airport. When I got to the Tucson airport, I fell out. There was nobody in the airport, and I fell out on the dropped the what do you call that? The rental car off, and I passed out on the couch in the airport, and they were like people were like vacuuming around me and stuff like that. I was like drunk out on the airport chair waiting for my flight out because I remember it was an early flight. So I got there about, I don't know, about 4:30 in the morning or something. They were cleaning the airport. And then I flew back out at 8:00 or 7:30 in the morning back to New Jersey. Oh my God, that was hysterical. It was a hysterical vacation. So I got the certificate. And here's the Grand Canyon. And I went down the Bright Angel Trail. Vacation to remember. See you next time.